The hospital lights were blinding, and the antiseptic smell clung to my throat like poison. I was lying on a gurney, my stomach twisting with pain from the accident that had landed me there. Tubes, machines, nurses moving fast. I remember every second, because that was the night I learned just how disposable I really was to my family. The doctor stood over me, clipboard in hand. "We need to operate immediately," he said. "Her condition is critical." But before I could even breathe a word, my parents barged in. My mom's heels clicked sharply on the tile floor, her perfume overpowering the sterile air. My dad walked in behind her, puffed up with that fake authority he always wore like armor. My brother Tyler strolled in last, cradling his mutt, a whimpering golden retriever with a bandaged paw. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments, from where are you watching this video? "Doctor!" My mom interrupted, waving dismissively at me on the bed. "Before you waste time on her, you need to check the dog. My son's best friend is hurt, and he matters more." I thought I misheard. My vision blurred from the pain, but I heard her laugh sharp, cruel, like she enjoyed the sting. The doctor frowned. "Ma'am, your daughter's vitals are unstable. If we delay—" Dad slammed his hand against the counter. "We said the dog comes first. She's always been a liability. If one of them has to die tonight, it's better her." I gasped, my voice weak. "Dad, please." He didn't even look at me. He looked at the doctor like I was trash on the side of the road. Let her die. Save something useful. Tyler smirked, scratching behind his dog's ear. "She's been a drain since birth. At least Buddy brings people joy." The doctor's pen shook in his hand. He looked torn, but my parents kept talking over me, filling the room with their laughter. Mom leaned over, her lips close to my ear. This is what happens when garbage pretends it deserves care. Every word cut deeper than the pain in my body. I stared up at the ceiling tiles, feeling hot tears run down my cheeks. The machines beeped, my chest rose and fell, but inside I felt myself shutting down. This wasn't New Year's of insults, years of being told I was nothing but here, in the place where I needed them most, they said, the quiet part, out loud. They would rather bury me than miss a spa day for my sister, or a manicure appointment for Tyler. They'd rather I die so their dog could live. The doctor hesitated, finally muttering, "We need a consent form signed." Dad snatched at the clipboard. "Fine, write down what you need. We'll sign that the dog goes first. If she doesn't make it," he shrugged. "It's not like anyone will miss her." The pen scraped against paper, my father's handwriting cold and deliberate, sealing my worthlessness in ink. I lay there, helpless, the sound of their laughter burning into my memory. And in that moment, between the pain and the humiliation, something inside me hardened. I swore to myself, if I survived, if I made it off that table alive, they would regret every word. I would make sure the people who signed me away like trash learned exactly what it meant to lose everything. When I woke up after the surgery, the first thing I heard wasn't relief or concern. It was arguing. The nurse whispered to me later that the doctors had ignored my parents' demand and taken me into surgery anyway. They saved me, against my parents' will. But in the waiting room, my dad had been shouting about wasted resources. My mom had been threatening lawsuits, and Tyler had been moaning that his dog deserved priority care. When I opened my eyes, Mom's first words weren't, "I'm glad you're alive." They were, "Don't expect gratitude. You should have signed yourself off." My throat was raw, my body ached, but my anger was stronger than the pain. Over the next weeks, I healed in silence. Every time they visited, it was just more venom. "Look at you lying there like a corpse," Dad sneered. "Doctors always save the wrong ones," Mom muttered. Tyler smirked. "Buddy's scar is cooler than yours." I learned to nod, to stay quiet, to let their words pass over me like smoke, because I realized something important. They thought I was powerless. That was my weapon. When I was discharged, I didn't go home. I went to a small apartment I had been secretly renting with savings from part-time jobs. I hadn't told them. My name was on the lease. My bank account was mine alone. And for the first time in years, I felt air that didn't taste like poison. They didn't care. They assumed I'd come crawling back eventually. But I didn't. I poured myself into recovery. Therapy sessions, online courses, late-night studying. Every insult they threw at me became fuel. And then came the opportunity. At the hospital, I had overheard conversations about finances, insurance, and legal paperwork. My parents had been drowning in debt for years, pretending otherwise. Their mortgage was hanging by a thread, credit cards maxed out. The only reason they weren't already homeless was because they'd been using my name, my clean credit score, to prop themselves up. They thought I didn't know. But the nurses had told me. The bills with my name attached had been handed to me. That was their mistake. I began documenting everything, quietly, carefully. Every fraudulent bill, every unauthorized account they opened in my name. I met with a lawyer, one who specialized in financial abuse. He looked at the stack of papers I handed over and nodded. "This is enough," he said. "You can take them down." It wasn't just about money. It was about control. They had used my identity, my future, to keep their empire of cruelty afloat. Now, I had the power to collapse it. But I didn't want to just report them. That would have been too quick, too simple. I wanted them to taste what I had felt lying on that hospital bed, helpless, discarded, begging for someone to save them. So I waited. I strengthened my career, built my credit independently, secured my accounts, changed every password. Quietly, I prepared. And then the calls started for them. Debt collectors, repossessions, eviction threats. I knew because Mom called me one evening, her voice frantic. "Hannah, they're saying we're behind on the mortgage. Fix it. Do something." I sipped my tea, calm. "Why me?" Dad's voice bellowed in the background. "Because you owe us. We kept you alive." I smiled to myself. No, the doctors did. And I hung up. Each week that passed, the pressure on them grew. They stopped laughing so loud. Tyler stopped posting selfies, his dog's collar looking more worn in every picture. Mom's pearls disappeared, one by one. Dad's swagger turned into shouting fits at neighbors. And still, they refused to apologize. Still, they tried to command me like I was theirs to control. But soon, their empire of cruelty was going to crack. Because the consent form I signed at the hospital wasn't just medical, it was legal. The day would come when they would realize everything they owned had my name buried in its foundation. And I would be the one to pull it out, piece by piece, until their entire house of lies collapsed. The day it happened was colder than usual, though it wasn't the weather that chilled me, it was the timing. Months of waiting, planning, collecting, and building had brought me to this moment. I walked into the courthouse with a folder under my arm, the same way my father once walked into rooms, believing he controlled everything. But today, it was my turn. The clerk stamped the final papers with a thud that sounded like a gavel. Everything I'd gathered, the fraudulent accounts, the debts in my name, the stolen credit was filed, sealed, and official. My parents' empire of lies had no foundation anymore. When I left the courthouse, the winter sun felt like fire on my face. 2 weeks later, their house was on the market. Not because they chose to sell, but because it was seized. Every car with fake financing tied to my name was towed. Their credit cards frozen. Their accounts locked. Their calls to me grew more frantic each day. "Hannah, you don't understand. We'll be on the street." Mom's voice cracked with hysteria, but behind it, I still heard the venom. "You wouldn't do this to us after all we've done for you." I laughed softly into the phone. "You're right. I wouldn't do this to family. But you made it clear I wasn't yours." She gasped, and I hung up. Dad came next. He didn't call. He came in person. I was at work when my receptionist buzzed me again. "There's a man here, says it's urgent. He's very insistent." When I walked into the lobby, I froze, but not out of fear. Out of satisfaction. There he was, my father. His expensive watch gone, his shirt wrinkled, his face haggard. The man who once bellowed that my future was worthless was standing in the middle of my office building, looking like a beggar who had nowhere else to go. "Hannah," he said, his voice hoarse, "please, don't let them take the house. Don't let them take everything." For a moment, I let him speak. I let him unravel himself in front of strangers, desperate, clutching at dignity like a man drowning. Finally, I stepped closer. My heels clicked against the marble floor, my voice cold enough to cut. "You once told the doctor to let me die," I said. "Now you're asking me to save you." His mouth opened, closed. I didn't mean it. "Yes," I snapped. "You did." Security escorted him out as he tried to shout, but no one listened. No one looked at him like a father. He was just another loud man with nothing left. The final blow came at the hospital. Yes, the same hospital. They had returned, not for me, but for Dad. High blood pressure, chest pains, his body had finally given in to years of rage. I stood at the edge of the hallway, watching as he clutched his chest on a stretcher. Mom hovered over him, mascara streaked, her hands trembling as she shouted at the nurses. "Help him! He's my husband! Save him now!" And then I saw the doctor pause, pen in hand, just like the night of my surgery. "We need a consent form," he said. Mom's eyes darted. "Just do it." But the nurse shook her head. "He doesn't have insurance under his name anymore. Everything's tied to his daughter's file, without her authorization." Mom's head snapped toward me, standing there calmly at the end of the corridor. Her voice broke. "Hannah, please, sign it. Save him." For the first time in my life, she wasn't sneering, wasn't laughing. She was begging. I walked forward slowly, the echo of my footsteps filling the sterile hallway. Memories slammed into me, my father's voice telling the doctor to save the dog instead of me, my mother leaning close and whispering that garbage doesn't deserve care. I stopped inches away from her. "Now you know what it feels like." Her eyes widened, tears streaking down her cheeks. "Hannah, don't. You can't." I turned to the doctor, my voice steady. "I don't authorize anything. If they want him saved, they can find another way." Gasps rippled through the hallway. Mom screamed, her hands clutching my arm, but I shook her off. As I walked away, her cries echoed. "Hannah, you're killing him. You're killing us." But all I felt was peace. That night I sat alone in my apartment, the city lights glowing outside my window. For the first time, the silence wasn't suffocating. It was freedom. They had handed me my death sentence on a hospital bed. They said, "Let her die." Now I had handed them their own. And I knew, deep in my bones, they would never laugh again. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.